evening, everyone, to the Finance Committee meeting for April 13, 2021. So the first thing in our agenda is call to order to this meeting and approval of the minutes for the March 23rd, 2021 Finance Committee meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion to move.
Any questions? No? Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes say aye.
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 Nays, the motion carries. Next is we have public appearances for non-agenda items. Do we have anyone?
We do not, either online or in the chambers.
Okay, thank you. So next we move to the next item is the finance director report. So Misty.
Yes, so we do have a new hire. So his name is Robert. He's doing fantastic. As you probably noticed from all of the different bills that are hitting the agenda this time, as my team is finally starting to dig out a bit, which is good. We are still behind on the treasurer's reports. Those are on me. So my hope is to get those for the next meeting. The thing that might stop that though is CIP has started. So we start the meetings with the mayor already next week for the CIP. And then once the new council is established, I will send out that schedule again to make sure people remember what meetings are coming up for that process. And then the only other thing to report on is the American Rescue Plan funding. So that's that stimulus federal funding that we're expecting to get. Just wanted to share with the committee that I am staying on top of that. Right now, it's very limited guidance as far as what the strings are that are attached to it. We're expecting guidance from the White House in May, hopefully. But even once we have that guidance, my suggestion would be that we kind of take it slow so that we can make sure that we're being very strategic with our money. There's a lot of different funding sources available through the rescue plan, but then also through the transportation bill that's being discussed. And I think there's value in figuring out what all of those programs do and make sure that we're not duplicating things and that we're using our resources to the best. So we don't have to spend the money until the end of 2024. So my recommendation would be to take kind of a slow and strategic public process, but not jump the gun too much at this point. So we haven't talked about it much, and that's intentional. So I just wanted to let you know that I am kind of keeping up on that, and we'll be having future meetings to talk about how to best use that money later. That is all I have.
Any question for Misty? No? Okay, thank you, Misty. So next we move to the review of bills. So the first batch is a detailed review of all checks for $10,000 and above, dated March 16 to March 31st, totaling $2,510,839 with 57 cents. Any question? So what I want to mention as to Misty is because you will see that all the pay-go payments to the tax incremental district. So the different project that they're using TIF. So any question, any concern, Misty, with this one? They're all.
For the most part, they were as scheduled and as documented on the payment schedule. The one exception would be well, two exceptions, I guess. So one is the Benjamin building. There wasn't enough increment generated from that project to make the full payment. So you'll see that the second line to reduce it to the amount of funding that we had. And then the other unusual item is the processing facility for ProMega in TID 4. We paid off that TID bond with this last payment. We technically had enough increment to pay it off last year, but with COVID and just all the uncertainty, I elected to hold off a year to make sure that we had cash to meet our needs. Everything is going well, so we paid that off early this year, just now, which ultimately saves us interest in the TID and allows us to close it a little bit earlier.
Okay.
One question.
Gabriela.
I think Randy was first.
Oh yeah, I didn't see it. Oh, Randy now. Oh, I can see Randy now. Okay, Randy, do you want to? Okay.
I just wanted to confirm that I heard that correctly, Misty. That particular TID is closed then, since we paid it off. I mean, that's the process?
Not exactly. So the TID as a whole isn't closed. That particular development agreement has been paid off and is finalized.
I
But there's
understand.
other costs, I guess, still coming from the TID. So the TID 4 as a whole has not closed yet.
Got it. Thank you.
Gabriela.
Just so for people watching, I just want to make sure that there's clarity that the PAYGO payment, we're not paying the corporations in that way. It's a reimbursement. Is that correct?
Yes. So at the time of the development agreement, we come to an agreement about how much incentive we will provide either to offset certain building costs or for public improvements like roads and things like that that they put in. And then it's a pay as you go. That's what PAYGO stands for. So then as the tax increment is generated, the property taxes that additional value pays in, as that's generated, we use that to reimburse them for those costs as required under that development agreement.
And that format reduces some of the risk to the city versus the other way where we pay up front to the corporations.
Exactly. So the PAYGO system, it actually costs us a little bit more money because we do have to pay interest on it, but it significantly reduces the risk rather than, for example, we put in a piece of infrastructure and then if we put in a road and then the development doesn't happen, the city still has to pay that cost, even if we don't have that tax increment to pay us back for it. Where under this model, yes, we pay interest, it costs us a little bit more, but we only pay them for money that comes in through property taxes.
Great. And then I have a second question, if that's okay.
Yes.
The on page 5 of the packet, which is page 1 of the 10,000 plus above bills, the payment to Sun Prairie for the MPSIS membership. I'm just curious about how that functions. So the MPSIS, that's that consortium of 5 municipalities that we share data reporting for public safety. So does Sun Prairie manage that and then we make the payment to them? Is that how that works?
Exactly. So how the relationship works is Sun Prairie is basically the fiscal agent. So they're in charge of the books and the checks and all that. The city of Fitchburg is responsible for the employees. So the MPSIS employees are city of Fitchburg employees. We bill that cost back to MPSIS as the fiscal agent, and then they bill us for our share of the overall cost of MPSIS.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have another question on page. On page 7 in the package is a inspection, construction inspection fee for KLA engineer. From which project is that for $38,000?
That is Fish Hatchery Road.
Oh, okay. Okay. So how we are paying them for the inspection of Fish Hatchery Road? We are paying them like quarterly, annually, because they are going to be, for the next year, for 2021.
Yeah. So we have a contract with them for the entire period of time, and they bill us monthly for
monthly
hours that they use.
Okay. Any other question? Okay, so next we move to the next batch is the detailed review of all check issue, check number 121-960-122-021, dated March 16 to March 31st, 2021, totaling $2,578,830 with 36 cents. You all have a question? No? Okay. So next we move to the detailed review of ACH payments for $10,000 and above, dated March 1st to March 31st, totaling $693,836 with 73 cents. Any question? No? It's all the employee retirement. And how often do we play this retirement? Like quarterly?
Monthly.
Monthly, okay. Any question? No? Okay, so next we move to the next batch is the detailed review of all ACH payments March 1st to March 31st, totaling $718,269 with 40 cents. Any question? No? Okay, so next we move to the Next batch is a detailed review of all P card transactions for $10,000 and above for the cycle ending January 6, 2021, totaling 34,432 with 4 cents. Any question? No? Okay. And next we move to the next batch is the detailed review of all P card transactions for $10,000 and above for the cycle ending February 8th, 2021, total 0. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we didn't want to just not include an agenda item out of fear that people would think we missed it. So we
Okay,
wanted to
okay.
have it on there and acknowledge there were 0.
Okay. So next is the detailed review of all P card transactions for $10,000 and above for the cycle ending March 8, 2021, totaling $147,781 with 99 cents. Any question? I want to see where we are here. And next is the review of P card transaction for the cycle ending January 6, 2021. I think we did it. Isn't it?
We did 10,000 and above before. Now we're on.
Oh, this is okay.
We're on 8.
Review of P card transaction for the cycle ending January 6, 2021, totaling $187,657 with 30 cents. Any question? No? Okay. Next, review of P card transaction for the cycle ending February 8th, 2021, with a total of $147,885 with 77 cents. Okay. And the last one is a review of P card transaction for the cycle ending March 8th, 2021, totaling $271,999 with 55 cents. Any questions? No? None? Okay. So now we move to the action items. And then the first thing is we are going to have an update about road construction. Bill.
Good afternoon, evening. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Yeah, just to give everybody an update on the road construction that we've got going on. Also, private construction that we're overseeing in some of the subdivisions. Fish Hatchery Road, as of this morning, they switched the traffic over to do the mainline construction. So if you drive through the intersection at McKee, you're going to flip over and you're going to be driving up the wrong way going up Fish Hatchery Road. One lane in each direction there. Everything's going pretty smooth up there. And they're going to be constructing the northbound lanes. So they started that this morning. They're breaking concrete. They're pulling it out. They're, grinding it up for reuse out on the project. And so that's going to be ongoing from in this configuration till the end of June, probably. And then they're going to flip everything over like they did last year and then do the opposite, coming back down toward McKee and finishing that up. So if you're traveling through the area, just expect a little more time because it is down to one lane in each direction, and be careful of the workers that are in the area. So that project is started off and we're on our way. Over on West Clayton Road, we started the construction of the new water main that we're installing there to be served out to the Terra Vesta neighborhood. They've started on West Clayton. They're going to be boring underneath Highway 14 with the water main, and then continuing down Highway MM to connect up to the plat line of Terra Vesta. So we'll be able to loop that water main through there and have good, redundant and reliable water system in place for that project. Our chip sealing and crack filling bids are out. I hope we've got the map on the website, but if not, I'll put it up there. It outlines the different areas that we've identified for crack filling. We're doing a few neighborhoods like Osmondson, Tree Line Drive, Burnwood, Marsh View Court, Oak Leaf Circle. So it's all around the city that we've got some projects going on with the crack filling and chip sealing. That should be starting up hopefully the end of April, beginning of May. resurfacing projects. We're looking at bidding that out as well in the near future. We're looking at South Sain Road between Aurora and Tower Hill Drive, Irish Lane between East Sain or Sain to the railroad tracks. It's just a little section there. Wild Heather Drive Circle, the cul-de-sac, Curly Oaks Lane, Dragonwick Lane, Kitty Crest Drive, and the circle. The East Sherrill Pathway between Research Park Drive and Fish Hatchery Road is going to get redone. The Dunmore Path and the Rimrock base basketball court. So just kind of lumping all of those different asphalt projects together so that we get a good price on those. And we're going to be bidding that one out within the next couple of weeks. So we can get started on that the end of May, beginning of June. We've got a few projects still in design. The water main reconstruction between Aurora and Tower Hill Drive is ongoing, that we're hoping to get that out for bid in May for construction in early June. And that construction will take a couple of weeks to get done out there. And that's timed in with the resurfacing. So as soon as they get done putting the water main in, they'll come in behind that and put the resurfacing, the surface back on. Let's see what else we got. Subdivisions. Stoner Prairie has started up their construction. They're finishing up the roads, and those should be finished up within, they're talking June, I think, with that. So that project is ongoing. The Crescent Crossing at the intersection of Seminole Highway and Lacey Road is also started up, the second phase of that. Fahey Fields, phase 5 will be starting up in 2 weeks. So we'll be over there in that area doing the inspection there. Terra Vesa, the first edition, is going to get finished up with the road and the streetlights. We ordered the streetlights a few weeks ago with the contract that was approved by council. And I think the first set is going to be arriving in May, late May. So they'll be arriving in batches of 32 over the course of all summer into fall, so that we'll have those streetlights going as we get them. So we'll be putting them up as we get them, and so the things will get started to light up out there. Lacey Road between Seminole Highway and Fitchburg Road, we've had a few meetings with the stakeholders, and there's another one that's coming up really soon, I think. I don't have the timeline on that one, but we have been meeting quite often with the stakeholders regarding the trees, saving trees, different widths of the roadway, and what we can do to make the best of every world that we can get through there. We did introduce a resolution to council proposing a cross section that we feel that the stakeholders and engineering administration would approve going forward. And that's going to go through TTC tomorrow, just as a discussion item. And then it will go to the Board of Public Works and the council for final approvals once everything gets wrapped up with that. Seminole Highways also, we're meeting with stakeholders out there regarding the cross section. That's the one that's causing the most heartburn right now is between Nine Bark or Central Park Place and West Clayton Road, as to how we can, there's a lot of things going on there. How can we avoid the trees, avoid the historic property, put parking in, put bike lanes in, put sidewalk in, put trees in, and not take any right of way. So not everybody's going to be happy with something's going to have to get cut, reduced, reworked, something. But we're working with all of those constraints, as well as trying to accommodate a left turn out of Argus that's there. Currently, it's just a right in, right out at the intersection of Argus and Sain. We'd like to accommodate more movements there, but we can't because of the hill that's there, the sight lines. So if we can reduce that sight line distance or increase it, I should say, then we might be able to get some movements there. So that's the other constraint that we're kind of working with in that area is vertically, horizontally, trees, historic, is a lot going on. So we have been having a few meetings with property owners up there, trying to see what we can put in and come up with a solution that best fits the needs of most, but not all. So we got that going on too. Yeah, it's been pretty busy.
Okay, thank you. Bill, you mentioned that some of the information for the chip and sealing is in the website.
Yeah, if it's not there, I'll get it up as soon as we're done with the meeting.
Okay. And the other thing I noticed because I was walking the neighborhood in the last couple of months, and I noticed that Forest Down is in pretty bad shape. Some areas. I don't know if you have noticed that. It's between Wilshire and Ivanhoe's Circle. Um, uh, the condition is very bad. I don't know if you have received any complaint from neighbors. I haven't, so but I was walking there, and after the snow melt, you can see that it's bad. You know.
Yeah, I did drive through there yesterday actually, and noticed the same thing. So we'll get that on our list of projects.
Yeah, I don't know if it's for this year or next year, but but because I notice it's pretty bad. It's like potholes and it's getting bad.
Right.
Okay, so any question for Bill?
I have a couple.
Okay.
Just to circle back to the website, you will make a serious attempt though to update the website. The only reason I emphasize is because I've received a number of calls, emails, wishing that the website was more current. Fitchburg residents do rely on that website for especially road construction projects. And then you had mentioned Seminole Highway. You did mention Seminole Highway, the intersection of Lacey and Seminole. That's under design as well?
Yeah, we're pretty close to getting a contract for the scope of services to include that for the construction next year.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Okay. Gabriela, do you have any question? Okay. Okay, thank you, Bill. So next we move to the action items. And the first one is, I don't know, Misty, you want to explain what, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So you will see kind of two sets of resolutions that look like they're duplicates. So I just want to take a moment to explain why that is. So the first ones you're going to see are 63, 64, and 67. These were the ones that were referred out at the last council meeting. At that meeting, council elected to refer those also to RCC, expecting that they were going to have an April meeting, but it turns out they don't. Their meeting isn't until May. So because that referral happened, council can't act on those three until after RCC has at least 30 days to consider them. So the earliest those could get acted on would be the end of April. After RCC would be the first meeting in May. Considering that at least the first two are definitely time sensitive, and the third one, there's a benefit of doing it with the old council that approved the budget to kind of close that loop. The workaround, which is not a strategy we want to use often, but is a strategy we use to try to get these still to move through, is you'll see later on in the agenda, you have direct referrals of those same three items that are going through the exact same process, just skipping RCC. So my recommendation for this body would be that you take the same action on both sets of the resolutions. And then when it goes to council, council can choose for each one if they want to approve the direct referral tonight and then postpone indefinitely when it comes back at the end of May, or in the first meeting in May when RCC looks at it, to get those done now. Or council could choose to either turn down or postpone indefinitely the one tonight, the direct referral, and then wait until it comes back after RCC reviews it to take action at that point. So to give council that flexibility on, I guess, determining whether or not RCC input is critical before it's voted on, I would suggest that you guys take the same action on both sets. And I did talk to the alder that recommended the changed RCC, and everybody understands that this wasn't to circumvent their wishes to not go to RCC. It's just a procedural issue that we ran into.
I have a question, Misty. Are this resolution time sensitive?
Yep, so 63 and 64 are the landscaping for the median, which, as I'm sure you've noticed, grass is starting to go already with all the rain that we're having. So if we wait in another meeting for that to happen, and then especially if we wait until May for those contracts to get approved, it's going to get pretty mangly out there, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. And then the stormwater one, the effective date is later, but I thought it was important to at least let the council that passed the budget, which is driving that rate increase, also approve the rate increase, since it is connected and related to each other. So that one's not necessarily time sensitive from a rate increase perspective, but from an old council versus new council perspective.
Okay. So we need to proceed like regular with this one. Okay.
Yep. And for both sets, we don't necessarily need to have the same discussion again
No,
when we get to the direct referrals, but I'd take a vote
Yeah.
on that still. So at this point, Julia, we do not have a motion.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna call it now. So I need a motion to approve resolution R-63-21, a resolution approving the 2021-2023 medium mowing contract.
I move to approve.
Do you need a second?
No.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Misty, who's gonna, Scott here?
So Scott is here, but I can start it off and he can
Okay.
jump in. So included in the packet is the pre-approval. So you can see that we went out to bids for this one. We did get 2 bids back, and we're recommending the low bid. The biggest change is that in the past we had done 1-year contracts, where now we're proposing a 3-year contract to try to get some consistency between the vendors, hopefully save a little bit money if they know that there's going to be that promise for future services. So that was that. And Scott, do you have anything else to?
Nope. I think that sounds good. Unless there's questions, of course.
Yeah, I have a question. Is I looking at the package and I can see the difference between the 2 quotes. You know what I mean? It's almost the double. And then when we discuss the other one, I have another one. But so that one was my one question. Why? You know what I mean? Like.
Well, and to be honest with you, Julia, we've really struggled to get bids for both of these contracts. So that too is another reason to try and to do it for 3 years, so we're locked in. So we were actually thankful that we did get the second bid, and I think certainly the mowing person has been the contractor who's done it for the last couple 2-3 years, and we're satisfied with his work. But again, I think that might be somewhat of an indication of what what the cost of this work could potentially be. So we were thankful to get the 2, but certainly Jay and his crew has been doing the work for the last couple 2-3 years.
Okay. Any other question? Gabriela.
I have a few things. So in terms of, is this the yearly cost for this year? Because we're doing a 3-year contract, is it significantly lower than what was specifically budgeted for this?
I would say that the annual budget seems to be in line with previous years. So the price that we did receive is pretty consistent with the price that we've received last year and the year before. I think, with the cost of fuel and those kinds of things, I think as Misty indicated, the idea that it is a 3-year contract, I think that gave some stability to the price of the contract. But the contract price is is pretty similar to what it's been the last couple of years.
So the 3-year contract is more about potentially locking in a price for 2022 and 2023 rather than saving money this year.
It is, Gabriella, but also the struggle that we've received in getting bids. You know, and it is quite because Jordan, it is kind of a moving target out there with the medians, and Bill kind of indicated all the work that's going on with fish hatcheries, so he has to redo the maps and all those kinds of things. What he did do with both of these contracts is we do have it's a specific location and a price, but we also included a square footage price with the anticipation that we're going to have potentially additional areas that they will be maintaining. So we've got that price locked in also.
And I
Answer
have
the budget.
Oh, sorry.
Let me answer the budget question quick. So there was $70,000 budgeted between the two contracts. And so this first one is 32 and the second one's 38. So it looks like we're basically right on target with budget.
Nice. Seeing that. Well, that's good to hear, because that's, it's going to be consistent. Certainly we did put a contingency account in there, just from the idea that there may be some additional areas that need to be maintained, added. And like I say, the price per square foot, was a publicly bid portion. So we've got the best price that we could for that. If there's additional grass to be mowed, if you would.
I have a
I
question.
do have another thing, but I can let my other people go first.
Can you raise your hand or direct your question to the chair? Sorry. No, because Randy, I cannot see you from my screen. So do you have a question?
I do.
Okay.
Back to the bid process. Scott, you mentioned there were 2 that placed a bid for this type of work. And it just seems like a low bid. I know you touched upon it a little bit earlier in your earlier statement, but why are there only 2? Is there something that we're not looking at, or is our expectation too high or too low?
Yeah, I can't answer that, Randy. I know what we do is we actually put together, I think it's 10 or 11 actual requests for bid, and I mail those out. And those are contractors that are in the area that have bid in the past, along with publicly bidding it and the State Journal and things like that. I really can't answer that. I don't know. I will tell you though, that with the median mowing, the price that we receive is really good. When we had received prices in the past from like Barnes and those types of companies, they were in that higher range. And I think it might've been a case of, they might not be able to compete with the current vendor. I guess that might be an explanation, but I don't know what their thought process is.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Gabriela, do you have another question? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to, it's more of a comment, but I'm nervous about a 3-year contract simply because, the reason why I referred this to RCC was because I was hoping to open a broader conversation about potentially looking at replacing some of this grass in the median with natives or other low profile plants that don't need regular mowing, potentially to, save mowing money, but also to foster environments for pollinators and increase infiltration, even though that's not as big of a consideration because these are very small sections. But anyway, with the 3-year contract, we don't have that ability to redirect any of those funds to other, potentially replanting these with something else than just traditional grass, which is why I'm hesitant about this, but I do understand. And that's why I was asking the question about the value of, are we truly getting a discount with the 3-year contract, or it's just locking us in for future years? So anyway, I understand that the need to do that this year and maybe even potentially in future years, but I do worry about locking us into a contract where we can't make changes come budget time to potentially go in a different direction with these medians. And I don't know if Scott has any comment on that.
But I guess just one thought. Certainly I in agreement that the environmental benefits of pollinators and those kinds of things would be a benefit. I just don't know. Certainly there is a cost in transitioning from turf to prairies and those types of landscapes. Along with there is a cost to maintain those. So to answer your question, whether it'd be less expensive to do it one way or the other, that would be difficult. We'd have to take some time to take a look at it. Certainly at the end of the day, it would be more beneficial environmentally. That's for sure. I guess. And I think too that we certainly have the flexibility within the contract if the city decides that they want to turn one of the grass areas into landscape. Certainly the contractor wouldn't be paid for mowing something that's not grass. So I think there is some flexibility in there that we could work with the contractor. And at the end of the day, it may end up being a wash. Like I say, there'll be additional space added and then maybe other space taken away. So it is a pretty flexible, workable document. So I think we could work on that and I certainly would be interested in that conversation. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Any other question? Okay, so all of in favor of resolution R dash 63-21, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Nays. The motion is approved. So next, I need a motion to approve resolution R-64-21, a resolution approving the 2021-2023 medium landscape maintenance contract.
Motion to approve.
Okay, thank you. So who's gonna speak about this one? This one is about landscape.
Can do the same kickoff if that's okay, Chair.
Mhm.
So pre-approval is included in the package. We did only get one bidder, but they checked with me as acting administrator. We elected to open it because it's pretty common that we would just get one bidder for this particular contract. And back to Randy's question, I mean, I'm not exactly sure why we're only getting one, but we are properly notifying people. Scott's going out of his way to notify potential vendors. So we felt that it was okay to open just the single bidder. And then that price is comparable to prior years. So we feel comfortable recommending that we enter into this contract, even though it was just a single bidder.
Okay. I was surprised to see that Johnson was another bidder in the previous resolution with a higher bid, and then it's coming, it didn't take, why it didn't take the other one, you know? What is the difference?
Well, I think, the mowing person is not a landscape person, I guess, is the easiest explanation I can. He mows grass. He doesn't, deadhead flowers. Mm-hmm.
Any other question? Oh, Gabriela.
One comment about the contract itself. There's a stipulation on page 110 of the packet, page 13 of the section, number 1 about the spring cleanup. And there's a direction to apply herbicide after mulching. And I guess I had asked Scott before, but I'm curious if what we're using and if the timing of that is something that can be potentially reconsidered in the context of protecting pollinators. I'm trying to find some information about best practice for when we should do that. If we have to apply herbicide, when we can do that to avoid potentially killing pollinators that are still hibernating underground. So I was wondering if you could comment on that, Scott, and I certainly will bring it up when this goes to RCC, even though we're obviously going to be in the contract, but hopefully we could maybe make adjustments to the contract if needed.
Certainly that's a great point, Gabriella, and I don't know the details of the herbicide that we are applying. I do know that we apply preen or ask them to apply preen in the which is a granule weed, weed deterrent or reduction when they do the mulching. But certainly, if we don't want to harm the hibernating bees or whatever it might be. So if we do determine that that's not a good practice, we will certainly, adjust that contract accordingly.
So Gabriela, so where do you see it? Is in page 111?
I'm sorry, it's 110 of the packet, page 13 of the section. It is basically the scope of work.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Under number
I saw
one,
it.
the last bullet is about herbicide application.
The snapshot 2.5 TJ, that
Yes,
one?
yes.
So we don't know what is inside that one.
I'll do some more research and I'll certainly bring this up at ours. For anyone in the public that's watching, I'm going to bring this up at the May 10th RCC meeting, and hopefully we might have some more information at that time.
Okay, any other question? Okay, so all those in favor of resolution R-64-21 say aye.
Aye.
Nays. The motion is approved. So next, need a motion to approve resolution R-66-21, approval of the 2021 spring tree planting plan.
I move to approve.
Okay.
This is our annual spring tree planting plan. We'd have a total of 125 trees, and it includes development, it includes parks, it includes terraces. We did receive 6 bids actually for this work, and the top 3 were very competitive, and they have been contractors that we've worked with throughout the years, and the contractor that we are recommending actually was the tree planter last year, and we're satisfied with their work. So I move approval, that's for sure.
So I have a question.
Approval, I can't move approval. I guess I'd recommend approval.
I have a question. Does this batch of tree include the tree for the Seminole Pond?
Not that I'm aware of, Julia.
Okay,
no,
because
no.
we need some tree. This is what I said. Where do you have a map where you're gonna plant this tree?
I do, Julia. I could get that to you.
Yes, I would like to see that map.
Sure.
So my question is also for Bill that is here, because regarding our issue that we have with the Seminole Pond, trees. I don't know if we are gonna use some of those trees here in this batch to plant or replant in the Seminole Pond.
Now, the contract that we have for the McKee Road reconstruction has about $80,000 of funding that's not used there. So we would be planting the trees and re-landscaping with that remaining funding.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, any other question?
I have a question, or it's more of a comment. I too would like to see the map of where the trees are, so they're going to be planted. So if you could forward that on to me as well, Scott, or all of us probably would be interested.
Yep, I'll send it off to the mayor and the council, all members.
My question is, I was surprised as the tree committee didn't have quorum.
Correct. The park commission did view it and they approved it. But yeah, the tree advisory committee didn't have a quorum. I suspect I don't want to speak for them, but pretty solid plan, pretty solid bids. So I think we're all good.
Okay, so all those in favor of resolution R-66-21 say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays. The motion is approved. So next, I need a motion to approve resolution R-67-21, authorize an increase in stormwater rates.
Motion to approve?
Okay. Misty?
Yeah. So this
Bill?
is, as I mentioned before, kind of closing the loop on the budget. So what we did is, I would call it a simplified approach. We took the actual adopted budget for 2021 for the stormwater utility. We did update the depreciation amount now that audit is completed to be an actual number, and that actually is a bit higher than what was in the 2021 budget, but know that we need to recover that cost as well. And then we simply looked at the current rates, how much revenue that would generate as opposed to those planned expenses, and there was a gap. And then to fill that gap, we just took an across the board percent rate increase that would be needed in order to meet the budget. And that amount turned out to be 38%. It is kind of high. At budget time, I thought it would be in the 20 to 25% range, just based on the deficit that we were showing in that fund. But that depreciation piece in particular kicked it up to the 38%. A couple of things I'd like to point out. One is that this really only addresses the 2021 operating budget. It does not address the large capital projects that we know are coming based on the CIP that's out there right now. So council during this next CIP will need to either prioritize projects and spread them out a little bit over the next 10 years, or else we will see another rate increase, pretty significant rate increase in order to pay for those large capital projects. And then I also had my team look at what our comparable cities charge for stormwater. And the numbers I'm going to say are based on an average urban residential home, because most of the other communities don't have separate rates for rural. So that's hard to compare those. So looking at just the urban residential average home, here in Fitchburg right now, we are at about $75 per year, and that's paid quarterly. With this rate increase, we would go up to $103.28 per year. So that's about a $30 increase. But if you compare to our other peers, so Monona is currently at $100, Middleton is at $180, Sun Prairie is at $140, and then Verona is at $66. So even after this pretty significant rate increase, we would be comparable to what the other municipalities are in our area. And I think that's reflective of the pretty significant stormwater issues that Dane County has been seeing, especially recently with the flooding. And here in Fitchburg, as I know you're aware, we have a lot of different flooding projects that we're trying to address. And so in order to meet the budget, the rates need to be increased.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with the first question. So my comment is, it looks, it's a big increase, 38%, but I understand the reason why we need to do it. And this is something that we need to continue have this discussion, because this is the beginning. Climate change is going to affect our infrastructure, and we need to prepare and have a resilient plan for future to accommodate all these new expenses that are going to come. And as a city that we're growing, we are incorporating more neighborhoods with more ponds to maintain. Dredging the ponds can be very expensive. So, so my question is, how, first of all, I have a couple. How we're gonna do this outreach to tell the people that this is coming? Because 38%, even though it's gonna be $30 more a year for a residential house to pay in a stormwater, around $7 per quarter. The 38% is a big number. That one is one. Second is, what are those projects that we need to do this year? I am curious to know what are those projects that we need to cover this year. And the third, I want to know is the study for the Maquis neighborhood, the south of Maquis, Sherrod Drive. The flooding study is going to be included in this year. So this is for now.
So I'll take them one at a time. So outreach
Okay.
plan. So we will do our traditional outreach, which would include on the next bill, so the bill that people get in July, which is before these new rates, or wouldn't include these new rates. We will include the standard language that just says that a rate increase is coming and direct people to the website to let them know that it's there. I realize a lot of people don't read their bill though, so that's probably not the best way to get the information out, but that is the easiest that we know will get to everybody. And then even the people that have automatic bills or online bills, there's a dialog box that pops up that they have to acknowledge before they can move on. So at least get people to know that there's a rate increase coming. From a more global perspective, I think our best resource is the Fitchburg Star. The residents are more likely to read the Fitchburg Star than they are pretty much anything that I put out. So I would suspect that the Star will have an article about this increase if it's approved tonight to talk about it. And then from a commercial perspective, the chamber is having a meeting at the end of April, which we will have a slide in there as well. I want to talk a bit about timing though. So part of my concern about outreach is that if we do a lot of outreach now, the actual increases aren't effective until 7/1 or 1/1, depending on if it's a quarterly or an annual customer. So even those customers that it's effective 7/1, they won't get the bill that reflects it until September. So I think we need to do some outreach now so people know the decision was made. But like the advertisement that the city will put on the Fitchburg Star's page that the city pays for will be closer to that September time when the bills actually come out. So I don't want people to think that there's a big increase that's happening now and then another one when they see their bills actually come through. I want to make sure there's a connection between the outreach and the actual time that they see that increase as well. So that's the plan. Again, I realize there's flaws in it. We do struggle with getting information out to the citizens that is read and digested and acknowledged. So if you guys have suggestions too on how we can better get that information out, open to that. Rely on you guys too to help us with that messaging.
Oh, the project.
Yep, other questions. Projects. So as I mentioned in my earlier comments, this is really only addressing the operating budget for 2021. It's not addressing those capital projects. So yes, there's some pretty big capital projects coming that we do need to keep in mind. I know you've had some meetings recently about Lake Barney and Goose Lake and all of those other projects that are there. Those are still kind of in the hopper, but that's not what this increase addresses. This increases that operating budget. So some of the items, if you look at the executive summary for the stormwater budget, you know, that bottom bullet point list of the executive summary, it talks about the significant changes from last year to this year. So it's things like vegetation management. There was an additional person, 2/3 of which is paid for by the stormwater fund to help maintain the facilities. There's an additional street sweeper that's being purchased, which has additional fuel and maintenance and that type of a thing that's associated with it as well. Because we're not replacing one, we are getting an additional street sweeper. Again, in order to meet the needs of our growing system. And then the East Sharrow project, actually the other project that's in there is there's an amount of funding that's for addressing unidentified, relatively small stormwater flooding issues. So things that pop up that have a relatively inexpensive price tag that we can address, or a study in order to determine what costs are. That East Sharrow project would fall within that category. So there is a proposal out there. If the rates are approved tonight, that project is intended to move forward to council for consideration to get that study done. So the first step is getting the rates approved so that there's the money to pay for it. And then the actual study will come to council for authorization as the purchase.
Other questions? Gabriela.
I have two things. First one, so during the sub-zero kettle study that Claudia presented at the Committee of the Whole, she talked about the potential of particular regions having like surplus stormwater utility rates if they have a particularly challenging stormwater issue, like in that case, needing a constant pump to get rid of the water. Is that something that we don't currently do that anywhere in the city? Is that correct?
Correct. And if I may, I would caution you against going down that path. There's been questions asked from different residents about, do we set up a separate district for those areas? And we wouldn't do that. We have one utility district. It would be an option to set up a separate category for rates that would only be charged to specific properties. The reason why I caution you against that is that's really only effective if there's a project that is significantly different in scope and cost compared to other projects throughout the city. So while that project does really only serve a particular portion of the city, there's projects just like that in other areas of the city. And so for my team to have to administer a multitude of different rates could get messy, but it also would create a lot of opportunity for error. So if properties are getting charged the wrong rates and that type of thing. So if there was a significantly different project that was outrageous compared to costs, it would completely not be fair to spread across the entire utility. I think that could be something we could talk about. But for these other projects that, yes, are unique to the area, but aren't unique necessarily in overall scope, I think that would be more challenging than what the benefit would be.
That makes sense. I do have a second question, but I can let you all.
Yeah, Randy has a question.
No, go ahead, Gabriella, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess the second thing is, when we do communicate on the bill, I wonder if we can also mention that there is a stormwater utility credit, process. For those of you that are watching, you can actually get a credit if you have a rain barrel, if you have a rain garden, pervious pavement, or if you're a creek supporter, which has its own set of criteria. This is all listed on the stormwater section of the website, and you can save amounts of money per quarter in perpetuity. So if you are kind of a person that really manages their own stormwater, you can get a credit. And that's something that, could we include that on a future bill when we're explaining the increase?
I'll have to talk to my team, but that's a great idea.
Great, thanks.
Randy?
Back to the outreach. I think after last year's assessments, the outreach is critical, considering the significant increase. I guess mine really isn't a question, it's just a statement. I can't emphasize it enough to get the word out of what we're up against, not only this time around, but in the future. That's all.
Okay, so my other question is because, we, as an elder, people are gonna call us and say, why the 38? And I want to feel comfortable explaining them why we are doing this. So can you explain why we couldn't do this at budget time, and we have to do it now, Misty, because people are gonna say, why you didn't address this increase during your budget?
Yeah, so we acknowledged during budget time that rates would have to go up, but we didn't calculate what that difference would be. A couple of different reasons. One is there was a rate change that was just effective last year, and we weren't sure, because of the various calculations involved, we weren't sure what the impact on the revenue of that rate change was going to be until those annual bills went out. So those annual bills went out in December. It was December or January, of course, don't remember now. So that was when we really got a better handle on what our revenue expectation would be based on the current rates. The other piece of it is that depreciation item I mentioned. So depreciation is calculated during audit time, which is end of February, early March. So that's kind of right about now. And then just from a timing perspective, that kind of hits now because it was such a significant increase. I think there is value, you guys are bringing up, doing this more in line with the budget. It might not be the exact increase that we would need it to be, but I think going forward, because we have this template set up for this kind of simplified process that we're doing, I think we could start doing that so that it's approved closer to budget time going forward. Again, it won't be perfect, but it'll at least be closer. And then from a cash perspective, that would be actually really helpful because 2021 is still going to be short for revenue because these rates aren't effective until July 1st or the first of the year. So we're going to have a deficit still in 2021, but we didn't want to recommend an excessively high rate to account for that timing difference. So we're expecting that our cash reserves can weather that storm for us.
I have another. So according to the numbers here is the gap that we are short this year is around $440,000, something like that.
Yep, 443 almost.
Okay. So, but this is also this is what we need to understand. This is for operating budget. We are not even touching the capital project. Okay. So the other thing that we need to think about is that maybe for 2022, I agree that we are, compared to the other peer municipality, we are like ranking low. Maybe we need to create like a plan or program and say how we can, because we are going to be short again next year in 2022, so how we can put together a plan with a, and progress, with a progressive increase every year, you know what I mean? Like, so eventually we are going to reach a point where we feel comfortable and, I don't know, where I think we can be even breaking even, you know what I mean, for a close, but because this is something that we need to remember, that maybe we need another increase of this magnitude in 2022, so, and I think that a lot of people that they are watching us now, they are in fixed income. When we say 38% increase is a huge increase, even though, like money wise, it's only $30 a year for residential houses. But we need to understand that also we are affecting rural property and businesses too. And that one is my other question. I know that the increase is going to be 38%. Everyone, even businesses?
Correct. So this, I call it a simplified approach rather than
Okay.
doing the full rate study like we did last time. Was just an across the board increase that we would need to break even. So yes, commercial properties are also affected and are affected on a larger dollar amount basis than what your residential properties would be.
Okay. Any other question?
I do have one.
Okay.
Another question.
Go ahead.
Is, granted that this rate increases for this year, will that continue on into subsequent years? And each year we will do an additional analysis as if we have to do another increase upon this increase? I mean, is that the structure that I'm looking at?
Exactly. So on the assumption that budgets tend to go up and very infrequently go down, yes, these rates would be in place and would likely increase going forward as well. Hopefully not to this magnitude if the budget projects can be prioritized.
Okay.
Any other question? No? Okay. All those in favor of resolution R-67-21 say aye.
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 Nays? The motion is approved. Thank you. So next, I need a motion to approve resolution R-69-21, a resolution to approve 2021 funding awards for the Healthy Neighborhoods Grant Program. This is a direct referral.
I move to approve.
Okay, so we have White Thompson from the Planning Department. Hello?
Oh, Finance,
Hi.
would you like me to provide a brief overview?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, so again, this is an annual approval by the council of our grant program. I think what I'm probably gonna do just quickly is share my screen just to throw some numbers at you. So hopefully folks can see a PowerPoint. So yeah, we received 13 total applications this year, about $173,000 in requested funding.
9,000 of that was basically a repeat app from 2020, which we funded. So basically a lot of demand. Our supply was $63,000 this year. So with that in mind, we did make a recommendation of 7 applications for funding. And just to remind people of the process for recommendations and approvals. So basically what I do is I open up the application cycle, I close it, I review the applications, I make recommendations to our H&I grant committee. The grant committee meets, they review my recommendations, and they make their own recommendations. And then those are presented to finance and council tonight. And then council will make their final funding awards. I do want to be clear that staff and committee agreed on recommendations 100%. And those recommendations are as follows. So again, $63,000 this year. Whoops. 7 applications recommended for funding. First one being Badger Prairie Needs Network. This is a food security, food pantry group. We've funded them multiple years, a really reputable organization. Big Brothers, Big Sisters. I'm sure folks are generally familiar with that group. We've funded them in the past as well. They focus on youth mentoring. Boys and Girls Club. We're also making a award recommendation to them for $7,500 to do some, again, food security type work. Dear Diary is actually a new group to us. They also focus on youth mentoring. So we're making a recommendation of $11,500 for that group. Latino Academy of Workforce Development, they're obviously a workforce development group focused on minorities. We funded them in the past as well, a really good group. So we're making a recommendation of 10 grand to them. Little John's, which is actually, folks may have heard of them. It's kind of a new model of a restaurant. It's basically a nonprofit model, kind of a pay-as-you-go restaurant where folks can come in, get really high quality food and basically pay what they can for the meal, or if they can't pay, that's an option too. So we're making a recommendation to fund that group as well. They're looking at actually partnering with Boys and Girls Club, again, to help deliver some food to our priority neighborhoods. And then the last group is 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin. This is an environmentally focused group. They've actually done quite a bit of work the past few years in our kind of North Fishhatchee Road neighborhood near Leopold School. So this would be a project to really enhance kind of the schoolyard up there, the community garden, and then also distribute garden produce to families in need as well. So I think a really kind of diverse awardee recommendation group, some repeat partners, some new partners. And overall, again, I think a really good batch of recommendations. So with that, I can certainly take any questions or comments the committee might have.
Gabriela.
I want to say this looks great. Thanks for all your work. I actually am pleased with seeing the larger blocks of money. I think it sounds like those organizations that we do choose can do a little bit more. I think the limit last year was around 5,000. So I think these larger grants are going to be more impactful.
Yeah, actually it was 10,000. We bumped it up to 15.
Okay.
We did make 2 awards. We didn't make any max awards because the applicant pool was of such high quality. So we wanted to spread the funds around. But we did make 2 awards above our previous limit of 10 grand, 11.5 to 2 youth mentoring groups. So, yep.
Any other question?
I have one. It's really just a statement. I want to thank you, Wade, as well. You did a fabulous job outstanding job on the work this past year, and I'm sure for the year going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I want to say thank you, Wade. I am part of the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative Committee, and I know the amount of hours that you put here, and this is great because the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative program now is like the poster child for the city, and we the organization that we are partnered are doing great, and we are planning to bring them in the future to one of the committee of the whole so they can provide some information to the council. So
Yep, we did that
Okay.
last year, and then we do annual reports every year with the
Mhm.
H&I committee to report back on the grant project. So we'll do that in probably June or July of this year for 2020.
Okay, so are you ready? So all those in favor of resolution R-69-21, say aye.
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 Nays, the motion carries. Thank you. So next, I need a motion to approve resolution R-74-21, a resolution amending the contract terms related to the engineering services for Sain Road reconstruction.
Motion to approve?
Okay, so you're gonna speak, Misty or Bill? Bill?
Do this one. Oh, no, Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, I can take this one. This is an amendment to the agreement for Sain Road where we're asking for, the consultant was asking for the terms to be amended regarding the indemnification and the insurance requirements. And we just reviewed the contracts generally for design, and our insurance requirements were quite high as compared to other communities. So we were just bringing those in line with what the other communities are putting in their contracts for design services. And we're also asking that, the committee approve these changes. The city attorneys reviewed it, our insurance carriers have reviewed the changes, and they approved the agreement.
Question, Gabriela?
The one thing I noticed was on page 305 of the packet, page 7 of this section, under section 310, hold harmless and indemnification. I thought it was interesting that the change in wording used the word negligent. So it sounds like if there are errors or omissions in the contract that aren't negligent, the company won't be held liable. Maybe I'm misunderstanding the contract. I mean, I do trust that the fact that the insurance reviewed it and said it was fine, but that seemed to be like a pretty significant change in the spirit of the paragraph. Can someone comment on that?
That's a city attorney question. It's in the definitions of negligent, and I wasn't really involved with that.
So my question is, what we are changing here, some of the language, we are not changing the amount, isn't it?
Correct. It's just changing the language of
Okay.
indemnification and the insurance requirements. The core of the contract remains the same.
Okay.
I have a question as well.
Okay, go ahead, Randy.
Bill, this agreement that we're revising, is this also going forward with any other type of agreements that we have with engineering services, or is it just this particular project, and is it this particular engineering firm?
It was this firm, and we are still sticking with our general requirements that we have approved for the city.
Okay, I'm just curious as to why this particular one would change and others wouldn't be impacted. So I don't know if you know the answer to that or not.
The firm had indicated that the insurance requirements were high, and that they would have to take out an additional rider policy for this. It was just a cost they didn't assume in their agreement.
Okay, but would that not also be applicable to other projects going forward? That those projects would be high as well? I'm assuming we use somewhat of a standard template when we enter into an agreement. So, is that rate based on, I don't know, footage of road or improvement, something like that?
Yeah, basically it was the level of risk, or it was related to the construction of the project and the risk that was assumed for those. For instance, like an environmental there would be, a higher insurance risk for environmental type of hazardous materials. So yeah, railroads require a high amount of insurance for construction. The general engineering services agreement, the amounts are in there are high based upon construction, but not so much for the design.
Okay, so I'm assuming that's something that we initially set. I mean, based on whatever parameters you have as a, with engineering, public works.
Correct, yes.
Okay, all right, and then they came back and just felt that they were too high. Okay, I understand.
Any other question? Okay, all those in favor of resolution R-74-21, say aye.
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 Nays? The motion carried. Next, I need a motion to approve resolution R-75-21, a resolution to declare community park designation for North Fish Hatchery Road Hub project.
I move to approve.
Okay, so who is gonna be, Wade, are you gonna do, or Misty, who is gonna start with this?
I can, or Misty, if you would like to.
I'm cool with you taking it. You wrote most of it.
Well,
And again, and Scott's here as well, obviously to help
Yeah.
out. And I guess, from a staff's perspective, my goal is just to really outline what the intent of the hub planning process has been, and I think will continue to be. So certainly, when we started the hub process a few years ago, I was really about creating a kind of a community and neighborhood gathering space in our North Fish Hatchery neighborhood, one of our priority neighborhoods under our Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative. So obviously, we put a lot of time and effort into fleshing that concept out. Multiple years. We do have what I'll call a final design concept in place. The council saw that, I believe last fall as you guys were preparing your CIP and your operating budget. And again, I think at those meetings, we did try to relay the intent of the concept design and the hub being a facility to attract not just the neighborhood, but the broader community. And I think that idea of attracting the broader community is reflected in the various amenities at the hub, features that we think, again, will attract and serve the neighborhood, but will also attract and serve the broader community. So at some point, the hub will need to be designated a certain kind of park, as we do with all our park properties. Basically, there's neighborhood parks, there's area parks, and there's community parks. And generally speaking, those parks are designated based on the facilities that they have, whether or not they serve neighborhood areas or communities, and also some acreage parameters. So those acreage parameters and those facility parameters are both in our Parks and Open Space Plan. I do want to point out those parameters are qualified as desirable facilities and acreages. Are not required. To my knowledge, we have nothing in city ordinance or other policy that dictates with rigidity what a neighborhood area or community park shall be. So with all that being said, with the intent of the hub planning process, again, staff is here to, obviously answer questions about the resolution. The resolution was prepared by Alder Radafrada and Maldonado, and certainly I think reflects the planning intent of the hub process up to this point. So with that, yeah, I can certainly answer any questions or take any comments the committee might have.
Any questions?
Yes, I do have a question, Julia,
Yes, go ahead.
or maybe several. There's no question this is a great project, and it's needed for the area. And I think shortly after I was elected and joined the council, I sat down with you, Wade, and we went over the hub, and I was very impressed with what you had at that point in time. And then when this came before council, Julia, you had reached out to me looking for support. And we had extensive conversation, and you know, as me, I'm always concerned about finances. And at that time, I specifically asked, as far as phase one, was there sufficient funding for what you wanted to do? And based on what was presented, and you said yes. And I said at the same time, I said I wasn't sure about phase two because I'd like to see the dollars. I got the impression that that could be all cared for under the neighborhood classification, and now we're here sitting and we're changing it to a community. And my concern is where does it stop as far as a community park? And what happens to those funds with the community park? I fully understand the dollars that are associated, but what happens when we have X number of community parks above and beyond what we ever established, and those funds? I would think each of the other parks those funds would be very diluted. I guess I'll go back to my initial question. What changed from neighborhood to why you want it to be a community park at this point in time?
Do you want to answer, Wade? And then
Yeah. Again, from a staff's perspective, the planning intent was always to create I'll call it a community facility, i.e. a community park. That's the short and simple of it. That was the intent. I guess that's all I can say.
Okay,
to that, yeah.
The other thing, Randy, is that there are not too many community parks that we have in the city of Fitchburg. We have Margot, McKee, and Nine Spring Golf. So in order to use those, some of those in lieu of fee, the park dedication fee, they go to a specific bucket of money of fund, that there are a lot of restrictions on how to use it on those community park. So Misty can explain better that, but the specific is that if we want to use some of those funds in a community park, it has to be for amenities. There are new amenities that they don't exist in other parks. And also they are going to attract people from every part of the city. And the idea with this community park, this hub, is going to be a community park because it's going to have components or elements in the design that they are going to attract people, not only people that they live in the surrounding community or neighborhood, but they're going to bring people from the whole city to that part. So, and we also need to think about where this community park is located. Is located in the North Fishkill corridor, where the city has a vision for that corridor to attract more development and more projects, that eventually, you know, if we have the designation of a community park, future funds coming from those future projects can also, you know, contribute to new amenities in this community park. But there is a lot of restriction on how to use those fees, and there are not too many community parks. So I don't know, Misty, did I miss something?
I'd love to clarify something real quick. So the park fees that we're talking about, the underlying requirement is that those park fees have to go towards a park that is used the same people that paid those fees. So just having this community park designation isn't what allows us to use those park fees. It's the fact that whatever subdivision or new development it is that paid in those fees would actually use this facility. So to kind of go off what you said, Julia, too, if we do get additional development, residential development in the corridor, that money could likely go to the hub, because that would be the park that those residents would use. And that, again, is irregardless of whether or not this is considered a community park or not. We've just used that word community park to indicate that it draws from the entire community, which then would benefit all of the developments across the city that paid in those fees. So just want to make that distinction between those, and then that it really comes down to what the park is, not whether or not it's classified as a community park.
But also, Misty, there are some, yeah, I understand that there are some, you know, the improvement fees that they go directly to the neighborhood parks that the subdivision bring, but then there are some additional funds that go to this other fund that can only be used for community parks. Is that correct?
Not exactly. So I think you're thinking of the fees in lieu of parkland.
That one, yeah, the fee in lieu, yes.
Yep.
Mhm.
And so that can go again to any park,
Yeah,
as
those
long as
ones.
it's a park
Mhm.
that would be used by the development that paid
Yeah,
the
yeah.
So fees in lieu in an area from a different part of the city, as long as it's for the park that those residents would use, it would be fine. It doesn't have to be a community park.
Yes. Oh, and the other thing that we are trying to do, Randy, is if we designate this a community park, we can use some of those fees that you know Misty mentioned, but also decrease the amount of money that we will need to borrow to build the hub too. As we mentioned in the capital improvement plan night when we approved this, and if you look at the CIP amendment that I wrote, some of the funding for this park is going to come for several sources. One is going to be, you know, park fee. I call it park fee, but you know, grants and also debt. So, and the idea is to have like a balance of these, you know, the three sources, funding sources, but we don't want to put too much pressure and say 80% of the project is going to be built by debt, you know? Okay, Gabriela.
One thing I like about this is, you know, in some ways, it's somewhat symbolic in that I'd like that we're declaring this a community park because it's signaling to the city that this is a park for everyone. It's not just for the neighborhood. Obviously, the neighborhood needs a park, but this is supposed to be a place where everyone in Fitchburg is welcome and can come. And I think in a way, it also kind of makes Nine Springs a true community park because Nine Springs really isn't very welcoming to everybody if you don't play golf. But this being part of the Nine Springs area this will be a place that everyone can truly use versus people that just people that play golf. So I think symbolically this is a really great resolution. So I'm in support of it.
Any other question, comment? No? Okay.
Yeah, I can just bring up one other thing. You know, I think we did go to the park commission with this as well. And I think, you know, they understood the intent of the resolution. And one thing they brought up is, you know, moving forward, it might make sense for the city to think about developing a more strategic approach to designate parks, you know, neighborhood area and community. And I think from a planning perspective, that's a great idea. And, you know, we'll see where that goes, but I think that's certainly a step in the right direction.
I would have to agree with you, Wade. I had the opportunity to watch that particular committee meeting, and I think all three of us were on that committee meeting watching. And you raised a very good point that maybe some further clarification in the design or the definition of what the community park or other parks are. Maybe we need to refine those a little bit better. Yeah.
And to that point, Randy, you know, I think even without having that process in place, that's what I do as a planner. You know, I look at criteria, I look at geography, and we look at planning goals and intent, and then we move towards that end. So even though the city doesn't have that process in place yet, you know, certainly from a planning perspective, we use some of those ideas as we, you know, move towards a hub end goal.
Gabriela.
And just as a side note, so the Parks Commission, just for people that are watching, the Park Commission is doing a refresh of the Parks and Open Spaces plan right now. So this is also a good, that particular designation or defining neighborhood park versus community park is that going to be part of that update of the plan, Wade?
Actually, it was identified as an action item in the previous plan in 2016. We just haven't been able, you know, with staff capacity, we haven't been able to check off every action item in the plan, but it was in that version, and I imagine it will carry forward into the next version and be a priority, you know, in the next year plus. Yep.
Great.
Okay, any other comment? Question? Okay. All those in favor of resolution R-75-21, say aye.
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 Okay, the motion is approved. So next, I need a motion also, okay, so now we have the three ones, the duplicate coming back. So we need to, okay.
Yes,
I
you
need
should
a-
still take action, and I would encourage you to take the same action so that council has the
Yeah.
flexibility.
Okay. I need a motion to approve resolution R-77-21, a resolution approving the 21-23 median mowing contract.
Motion to approve.
Any question? We already discussed this in detail. So all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Nays, the motion is approved. The resolution, I'm sorry. Next, I need a motion to approve resolution R-78-21, approving a resolution approving the 21-23 median landscape maintenance contract.
I move to approve.
We already discussed this. So all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. The resolution is approved. Next, I need a motion to approve resolution R-79-21, authorize an increase in stormwater rates.
Motion to approve.
Okay, so we already discussed. So all those in favor of the resolution R-79-21 say aye.
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 Aye. Nay, the motion is approved. So next, I need a resolution to approve, a motion to approve resolution R-80-21 is approving the first amendment to agreement for subdivision improvements in the plat of Crescent Crossing. It's a direct referral.
I move to approve.
Okay, so Bill,
This is an amendment to the subdivision improvement agreement for Crescent Crossing that's located at the intersection of Seminole Highway and Lacey Road. We have an upcoming project at that intersection for intersection improvements, which would incorporate some of the area that the subdivision improvement agreement is also overlapping with. The agreement states that in order for the property or the developers to allow occupancy on the property, that all of the improvements need to be completed for the subdivision, which would include sidewalk along Seminole Highway. There is the risk that during design of the intersection improvements that the developer's sidewalk that they installed might not be exactly where it needs to be as far as elevation of height or the location, depending on what the improvements are. So the developers asked that as part of this amendment to provide the city with an escrow for the amount of the sidewalk that would be constructed for their development and allow the city to assess or invoice the developer for any costs above and beyond extraordinary for the installation of the sidewalk when the city completes the intersection improvements. There's also a change in the agreement where we are asking the timing of the private utilities to go in prior to the installation of the base course. And what that will allow us to do, and the developer and private utilities, is to not redisturb area after construction is completed. Typically what will happen is the utilities will come in, they'll put down some conduit under the road, then they'll leave, then they'll come back after the developer has finished grading the entire site, and then they'll come back in and they'll rip up everything that the contractor, or not everything, the area that the utilities need to go in for that the contractor just put in. So by changing this, the phasing of the construction, we allow the utilities to go in, get in there, do it one time. We allow the developer and their contractors to finish up everything one time, and we don't have to keep chasing the rabbit down the hole. So those are the two major requests that we have in this agreement for the amendment, and here to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Do we have to pay any additional, the city, for these changes, or the developer is in charge of all the expenses here?
The developer's in charge of the expenses.
Okay.
They're providing the city with the escrow so that we can use that when we do the intersection improvements. And if there's a difference between the two, we can bill the invoice the developer for that.
Okay. Any question? Randy, you have a question I have in the chat.
I don't
Or
know, you
was
have me in chat, I
before?
don't, no chat, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, no
Okay.
question.
All those in favor of resolution R-80-21 say aye.
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 Nay, the resolution is approved. So next I need a motion to approve resolution R-81-21, approving agreement with R.A. Smith for construction related services for Crescent Crossing.
Motion to approve.
Okay, Bill.
Yeah, this is a construction and inspection agreement with R.A. Smith to complete the construction inspection for the subdivision. It's direct referred because of the timing of the improvements that are being completed. They wanted to get started right away, so we're asking for approval tonight for that contract.
So practically what they are going to be doing, they are going to be doing inspection or work?
They will be doing the construction inspection,
Okay.
overseeing the inspection. The invoices are billed directly back to the developer for the cost of that. There's no cost to the city.
Oh, okay. So the $34,000, there is in the resolution, there is an amount for the fee that they should not exceed 34,710. So that one is going to be paid by the developer?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any questions? No? Okay. All those in favor of resolution R-81-21 say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The resolution is approved. So next, I need a motion to approve resolution R-82-21 is approving amendment number 1 to agreement with R.A. Smith for construction related services for Stoner Prairie.
I move to approve.
So this one is 82. Okay. Bill.
Similar to the previous resolution, we're asking for approval for the construction services. The construction services will be billed back to the developer. There's no cost to the city on this one. And we have a current agreement. We're just extending it through the completion of the subdivision.
So the amendment also increased the amount by $29,000.
Correct. The original agreement that we had was for the installation of the utilities. Mm-hmm. And now we're contracting for the completion of the project, which would be the grading, curb and gutter, asphalt surface, sidewalk, etc.
Okay. Any question? No? All those in favor of resolution R-82-21 say aye.
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 Aye. The resolution is approved. Next, I need a motion to approve resolution R-87-21 is amended the 2021 general fund budget, redirecting Fitchburg fund donation and funding to the teen center study. This is a direct referral.
Motion to approve.
Okay, so this one is, I don't know why I want to talk. This one is a resolution that I am bringing forward with Alder Maldonado. So the idea is that the Fitchburg fund was fund a partnership that the city established with United Way of Dane County maybe like a year and a half ago. So it was like a matching program that the city put 11,000 or 15,000, and the United Way were supposed to match that amount with their donors. But the amount that they collected were only $3,000, but the city already reallocated in the 2000, I think, 20 budget or 2019, I don't remember. Yeah, the Fitchburg Fund, additional money to the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative for this fund. And then, the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative Committee in our last meeting or couple of meetings, we discussed to determine how we can invest those funds. And since the teen center is part of the it's a youth program, and United Way when they allocated or they fundraised for this money, and the purpose was to use these funds in youth program. So we asked them if they were okay if we can use those funds for the study of the teen center, and they say yes. They align with the neighborhood area. They align with the program, youth program. The Healthy Neighborhood Initiative Committee approved that it will be a good use of these funds to allocate them in the teen center study. So I don't know, Wade, if you want to comment anymore about our discussion in our group?
Yeah, no, that was a good summary. Just one clarification. It was never a match program. It was United Way.
Yeah. Okay.
They hoped they could raise, they hoped they could match ours, but they never, promised that. And obviously it was a pilot and they weren't able to raise, near the match, but we certainly made a good effort. We learned a lot. And as you mentioned, we did check in with them. They're A-okay with us redirecting the funds. They think it still meets the intent of their fundraising campaign. I did touch base with the two donors. They are both okay with redirecting the funds. So again, we have all our boxes checked. So yep.
So, and the other thing that I want to mention is in the 2021 budget, we include $40,000 for the teen center study. 25,000 will be paid with property tax, and 50 will pay by donation. What we are trying to do is to the 15,000 paid by donation. We want to use this $14,000 that they're left in that fund to cover for that. So there's going to be a gap of $900.
I have a question.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Whenever you, okay. Yeah, I remember last fall when we went through that process, and it was $15,000 was, $25,000 for taxpayer money, and then the remaining, I thought it was going to come from a nonprofit.
Donation.
Pardon? I thought it was going to come from a nonprofit. If you use the $3,000, which is United Way, that's a nonprofit, but the $11,000, that technically is taxpayer money as well, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you are applying it towards the $15,000 that was supposed to be nonprofit.
Yes, if you read the part, I think
I read
Misty
it.
put the budget amendment, the language, she indicated there that the $11,000 were taxpayer money that we allocated in 2019, 2020 budget. I don't remember. What's that? Yeah. To create this pilot program with United Way. And it was approved by council. So what we're trying to do is let's move this $14,000 that is in that fund to, to complement, the $15,000 for the donations. There's going to be a gap that that I don't know. I think there is a friends of the Teen Center group that they are planning to do fundraising. They know that they need to collect the rest in order to for the RSP, something like that, Wade? Yeah, isn't it? In order to start with the process with the RSP, we need to have the 40,000.
Yeah, I think the idea would be, if we do, obviously, if we're going to do the study, we would put out a request for proposal, per our standard city processes to identify to get bids and then identify a desired consultant to lead the study. And I think from my perspective, before we put that RFP out, it makes sense to know how much money we can pay a consultant. So obviously you guys put the $25,000 aside, in the budget. And then if this passes tonight or passes as modified or doesn't pass, I will know how much money, we have to spend on the consultant. And then I can proceed with getting that RFP out.
Question?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I heard what you said, Julia. I'm just doing the math, and if I remember correctly, last fall, though, the $15,000 was supposed to come from nonprofit dollars. Now, the $11,000 is not, that's still taxpayer dollar. The $3,000 is nonprofit. So what you're doing is you're actually amending what we spoke to last fall, and the $15,000 will not be nonprofit, only the $3,000 and whatever the remaining difference is of $970. And then I also remember something where Alder Melodano had also made a commitment of his yearly salary. Now, I understand there's some mechanisms in order to make that contribution, but I do remember him stepping up and asking or stating that he would make that contribution. So I don't know where that went either. I'm just kind of curious as to where some of this, how some of this has changed from last year to this year. I don't know if you have any answers to those questions.
We discussed it in the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative that how we can, how we can allocate those funds that they are unapplied. We decided that it could be one good use. It could be in this teen center study because aligned with the program from the area and also, the intention of the initially allocation of those funds. It was related to youth program. So that one was the discussion that we have in the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative, and this is what the committee recommend to bring this forward. I think we discussed this in our January meeting, or I don't remember. And then, yeah, so we decided to proceed with this.
And Julia, I can clarify some of those numbers Randy is talking about. So yeah, Randy, basically the money was all put into one lump sum into our H&I grant program pot last year. And initially the goal was to use 15 or 13 grand as a city match or a city pot. And then United Way's goal was to try to match that. Again, there was no guarantee they could match that, but that was the goal. As things have shaken out with the grant program, we now have 11,000 remaining to use for the Fitchburg Fund, and United Way only raised $3,000. So our, I guess our pot is smaller than we thought it was going to be, a year ago. Does that clarify?
There's no question about it. I understand the math. What I'm just stating is last fall, the $15,000 was supposed to be obtained from nonprofit dollars, not taxpayer dollars, because the $25,000 was already taxpayer dollars. And this is a great program. There's no question about it. And I've had conversations with Alder Melodano about it. I'm just trying to understand, and I shouldn't say understand, let me back up. I want to clarify where the money is coming from. I am going to approve this, but I fully understand that the dollars that's being provided from H&I is taxpayer dollars. That was not The original intent was, in the agreement we came to last fall, just so the taxpayers of Fitchburg understand that we made a commitment to them of $15,000 was going to come from a nonprofit mechanism. But now we're amending that, and we will use taxpayer dollars. The only nonprofit dollars will be the $3,000, and whatever you come up with, the remaining dollars, 970, if my math is correct on that. So.
Yeah, so I want to say is the 15,000 were private donation. Private donation could be not-for-profit money or private donors too. So this is what we discussed in the fall.
And I apologize,
Gabriela,
Randy,
you have
I
a
misunderstood your question. I apologize.
Yes, Randy, all the money that fund the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative are taxpayer money. Gabriela.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to clarify that in terms of my understanding from the budget process last year was that the matching funds would be fundraised elsewhere outside of the budget process. I guess my impression was not that it would come from any one particular source, like a nonprofit or private, but that it would be fundraised elsewhere. And I personally believe that this application of the funds seems like a good fit. Actually, I remember hearing about this back in 2019 or early 2020, the Fitchburg Fund. So I'm happy to see that we have found a way to potentially use the money.
Let me,
but yeah.
if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, and I agree with you, with Gabriella. However, that kind of dispels that entire evening, because if that were the case, we would have taken care of all $40,000 if we could have with taxpayer dollars. Granted, we didn't have that kind of bucket, but anyway, let me just move this forward. It is a great program. You're creative in where you've obtained the funding, and let's move forward with the analysis as quickly as possible. Because I've expressed to Joe that he needs a business plan, and the closest of a business plan that we're going to get is an analysis or study. So I'm in agreement. I'm just curious as to where the remaining dollars will come from.
I want to speak because I know that Alder Maldonado is working very hard on this teen center. He put together a group of people that call themselves the Friend of the Teen Center, and they are organizing to work on fundraising and writing grants for the team. So, and the group of people that they are working on this initiative, I will call it initiative because it's an initiative now, is a very diverse group with different background and experience. So I think it's good that that I agree with you, Randy, that we need to move forward with the analysis to determine what is the idea of this project and how to make it happen. So any other question? No? Okay. All of in favor of resolution R-87-21, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The nays, the resolution is approved. So the last one, it was tabled in Public Works.
Correct. And
Isn't it?
staff would recommend that you postpone it again.
So I need a motion to postpone resolution R-89-20.
And Bill, should we just do it to the next meeting or longer than that, if you're there?
That would be in May, either the first or the second meeting in May.
So we postpone it to the first or second meeting of May.
So the first meeting would be May 11th.
I move.
So May 11th? So
I can make a motion. I move
Okay.
to postpone resolution R-89-20 to the May 11, 2021 council meeting and finance meeting.
okay, a second.
We don't need a second.
All those in favor of postponing, say aye.
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 Aye. The motion is postponed. So next in our agenda is announcement. Our next meeting will be April 27, 2021. I will thank everyone, Bill, Wade, and Scott, and Misty. So next, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor that adjourning the meeting at 6:54, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you and see you at 7:30.